Before we continue with the analysis, I want to talk to you guys about JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that's the latest home shirts, the latest away shirts, tracksuits, or even retro kits, Jersey FIFA has a bit of everything. There really is something for everyone, so if you are interested, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and head to JerseyFIFA.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we have another bit of a disappointing game for Manchester United. 3 games in a row now where they haven't been able to win in the 90 minutes. And yeah, it's just another disappointing night after such a good start, a decent first half, 2-0 up, cruising, looking kind of comfortable. But was that actually really the case? That's what I want to kind of look at today, because there's a lot of talk of United crumbled in the second half. I feel like the signs were there in the first half. I think Spurs, all game long, were creating chances, creating opportunities. The final ball was just lacking for them. So I kind of want to put the myth to bed that Spurs were awful first half, United destroyed them. Because I don't actually think it is what happened. Despite that, we will kind of split this video into 2 parts. We're going to look at what United done well, kind of how they hurt Spurs, and then what Spurs done well, how they hurt United. Because this was a game with no control in it at all, no quality build-up play from the back, and yeah, real lack of control, real poor defensive structures, which is why we saw 4 goals. So let's just get straight into it, and we're going to start with Manchester United on the ball, where they were very often able to build possession in a 2-3 shape, with the fullbacks either side of Casemiro. Then we've got Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes pushing a little bit higher, and then Sancho, Antony wide, with Rashford leading the line. Now Spurs, it kind of looks like a back 3 on paper, but it was very much a back 5 at times, and this made ball progression for Manchester United really, very, very easy. In the first half in particular, progressing the ball, it was too easy for United. It was really poor from Spurs, no quality. So the way that they're going to do this basically is look at the midfield. You've got Skip and Højbjerg up against Eriksen, Fernandes and Casemiro. It's an instant overload. The Spurs wingers didn't really do enough from a defensive point of view to kind of fill in and help out in the midfield. It meant that United had the overload in midfield throughout that first half, and during that first half, we saw some really good combination play. Some of the passing from Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen in particular was absolutely brilliant, and I was really enjoying the way that they were linking up and just cutting through this Spurs midfield at will. It was so easy. Now what you also had on top of this to make it even more difficult for Spurs was Marcus Rashford dropping in. When he leads the line, we kind of expect a player which goes in behind the defence, which of course he did for one of the goals. But what we also saw in this game, again in the first half, was him dropping deep and getting the ball, and I thought he was really good in this area. Now there were situations where Eric Dyer would try and go kind of touch tight, be physical with him. Rashford was simply too good, too quick for him. Dyer couldn't deal with him. Now with Rashford dropping into this area, it also meant that at times Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes could move a little bit wider, almost outside of the Spurs structure into these areas. Bruno Fernandes here, Christian Eriksen here, and then this of course allows the ball either to be kind of whipped into the box by someone like Eriksen, or worked wide to the likes of Jadon Sancho and Antony. And again, honestly, the Spurs kind of approach for the first 2 phases of United possession, they just didn't challenge United. It was so easy for United to move the ball forward. It was too easy. Now, unfortunately for Spurs, it also continued in their defensive third, where again, they just weren't any good. Now, United didn't even kind of tactically create the overload here. Spurs have got the back 5. United attacked with a front 5. So it was kind of man-to-man in a lot of these situations. The Spurs defence was just awful. The first goal, for example, the way that Jadon Sancho gets the ball on the left-hand side, and, don't get me wrong, it's a really good finish, really good play. It's Jadon Sancho. Of course he wants to cut in on his right foot there. The Spurs' defence was just really poor. So United are 2-0 up, right? But I don't actually think they're doing anything that great. I thought Spurs were just horrendous. Just awful from a defensive point of view. On the ball, they were still threatening. We'll look at that in a minute. But defensively, just absolutely awful. Awful play. The centre-backs were so passive, which meant that this Spurs midfield just got completely overrun. And when Casemiro, Fernandes, Eriksen and Rashford are all on it and completing their passes and linking up well, like I said, it just allowed United to go through them like a hot knife through butter. They should have been 3-0 up. They should have been 4-0 up. United should have put Spurs to bed. They should have killed the game. Now, this is obviously something we've been saying far too much recently, where United are having a good first half. Go kill the game. Put the ball in the back of the net. It's not difficult. Kick it in the net, please. That is what Ten Hag has to be thinking at the moment. We saw it against Sevilla the other week. United are 2-0 up in that first leg. A couple of decisions go against United. They don't take the chances. Take your chances at 2-0 up at this level of football. Because at this level of football, especially against someone like Spurs, where they've got a Harry Kane or a Son, they've got quality players, you've got to take your chances. You cannot waste chances at 2-0 up in the Premier League and expect to compete. It just doesn't happen. You have to take your chances. You have to be clinical. Bruno Fernandes should score one of his. Sancho should probably score another of his, although it was good defending. United got into so many good situations, so many good opportunities in the first half. Just didn't take them, didn't kill the game. But the bigger problem for me is, not taking your chances is one thing. It's frustrating, it's annoying. The bigger problem for me is the way that the team came out in the second half. This lot came out like they thought they'd already won the game. And there's a mentality problem in this squad. There really, really is. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. I don't work with the players kind of day in, day out. I don't know what the problem is. But there is a real attitude and mentality problem in this team. Because they just kind of, away from home, one thing goes against them. It can just be one free kick. They just seem to kind of shrink. And it can't keep happening. Now, of course, we do have to take into consideration the fatigue of this squad. This squad is absolutely knackered. There's no hiding that. They've played about 15 games more than most teams in the league this season. They are shattered. You can see it. They look out on their feet after the 55th minute. Eriksen, for example, cannot complete more than 60 minutes at the moment. It's a problem. It is a real problem. What also doesn't help, though, is the substitutes. Now, I've seen a lot of criticism online, actually, for Ten Hag, because he made a few subs in the second half. We saw Martial come on for Sancho, moving Rashford to the left, Martial up top. We saw Eriksen off, we saw Fred come on. At one point we also saw Weghorst for Anthony, Bruno Fernandes wide, Weghorst kind of in that 10 position, and Tyrell Malacia for Wan-Bissaka, like this. And Erik Ten Hag's getting a lot of criticism, saying that his subs completely ruined United's tempo, completely ruined their control. And I get it, because I think they did. Fred, when he came on, was pathetic with his performance. It was embarrassing how poorly he performed. Tyrell Malacia, not good enough. Weghorst, I didn't realise he was on the pitch. Martial, awful, hold the ball up. All the subs were awful. They were really, really bad. And therefore, Ten Hag's getting criticism, because it meant that you lost any sort of control that you had. You've gone from Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen in midfield to Fred and Weghorst. That's a problem. However, Ten Hag deserves criticism, yes, but we've got to put context to it. We do have to put context to it. Manchester United played 120 minutes at the weekend. 3 nights before that, they were away in Spain. 4 days before that, they were playing again. These players can't play every minute. Everyone keeps saying, the second Anthony comes off, United drop points. He can't play every minute. He has to come off at some point. Jadon Sancho, we know he isn't even fully up to match speed at the moment. He doesn't these players, they can't just keep playing. Eriksen, he does have to come off in a game, because he's shattered. Around the 55th, 60th minute in this game, he looked knackered. Spurs were walking past him. He looked so tired. He had to come off. So, you can criticise Ten Hag because the subs which came on were poor, but he had to make the subs. Now, you can say bring on different players, but I want to look at the bench from last night. Tell me there which players are going to come on and bring you the same level of control as a Christian Eriksen or a Bruno Fernandes in midfield, or even Jadon Sancho. Martial is the one which has good ball retention out of those lot. He was awful. He just didn't retain the ball. So, Ten Hag, yes, you have to criticise, but you have to make subs in the game. If Ten Hag had left the same team out for the full 90 minutes, they would have fatigued, and I'm pretty confident they would have conceded. I mean, it was 2-1 by the time the subs happened anyway. So, he can't win, because these are the guys that he's got to choose from the bench. It's just not good enough. The profiles are wrong. They are not replacements for what United had on the pitch in the first half. Now, also we got the fact that tactically Spurs destroyed United. They really did. And like I said, even in the first half when Spurs were awful defensively, offensively, they were causing so many problems for United. Spurs should have scored 4 in this game. Eric Dyer missed an absolute sitter. Perisic has a chance where he has to score. And who was the other one? Someone else missed a big chance. I can't think who it was. Spurs should have scored 4 in this game, just like United should have. And again, it was attacks on top. Now, what we saw from Spurs was that kind of natural front 5 with the wing-backs pushing forward. And we've got the typical Harry Kane's going to drop in and the wingers are going to come into this position. Now, what's going to happen initially, actually, with the wingers coming inside, like so, is we've got Skip, Højbjerg, Richarlison and Son up against a midfield 3 of Fred, Casemiro, Weghorst, or earlier in the game, Fernandes, Eriksen. It doesn't matter who it is. The whole point is that it's 4 versus 3. United got completely overloaded in this area. Now what happens as a result of this is the fullbacks start coming inside, trying to follow Richarlison, trying to follow Heung-min Son, stop them getting into these pockets of space. But then the wingbacks fly around, get into these areas, put a ball into the box, and when you invite that for a 90-minute football match against players like Pedro Porro and Perisic, who have genuine quality in the final third, you're going to concede. You are going to concede. And this is actually more so where I would be critical of Erik ten Hag, because you're 2-0 up, make the change to secure your defence. Because even at 2-0, United shouldn't have been 2-0 up. Spurs should have scored in the first half. So this is where I will be critical of Ten Hag. He could have changed shape. He could have dropped maybe Casemiro in at centre-back to kind of match this front five with which Spurs are attacking. There are changes that he could have made in that aspect. Now again, if we go to the bench, the options aren't great. You know, there's not a single centre-back there. Defensively, there's only Malacia and Brandon Williams. But Ten Hag should have changed the system at 2-0 up because the warning signs were there. This wasn't United battered Spurs and then Spurs battered United. Both teams were creating chances throughout the game. When you're 2-0 up, you secure it a little bit. Shore it up at the back, change the shape and stop Spurs overloading you. Erik ten Hag didn't do that and ultimately it cost United the first goal. I think it's a really good example of it. So we can see Perisic on the side here. Let me just mark him actually real quick. We're going to see Perisic out here and he's got too much time. Initially, Wan-Bissaka, you have to go tackle him. Go defend. Go defend. He gives him way too much time. But what we can also see in the box for Spurs is this is the front five. So we've got Harry Kane here, we've got Richarlison, we've got Son, we've got the wing-back, Porro from the other side, and Perisic on the ball. Wan-Bissaka doesn't get out to him, and the cross comes in. This happened all game long. And who's the spare man going to be? It's going to be this man here, the other wing-back from the other side, because Spurs have the 5 versus 4. Now, obviously, there's a huge slice of fortune with the goal. I mean, there's a great block there. This finish is brilliant. You know, you can't, like, as a system for United, it's a brilliant goal to concede. It's a little bit harsh. But the warning signs were there all game long, and United just didn't adapt to it. And all round, I just think it was poor game management from Manchester United and from Erik ten Hag. It wasn't good enough. You can probably tell from the vibe of my video, I'm not actually in the best mood. I did not get any sleep at all last night. So I'm not in the greatest mood I've ever been in. I don't have too much patience for this team at the moment because it's the same mistakes. And the problem is it's the same mistakes which are going to keep happening. Because I wanted to try and avoid the topic, but we can't. David De Gea. Away from home, you're 2-0 up. Take the sting out of the game. Control possession. No. You've got Fred chasing his touch. Martial, nowhere to be seen. Weghorst, nowhere to be seen. Tyrone Malacia not doing very well. And De Gea just pumping it into absolute no man's land in the middle of the pitch every single time. Every single time. He seems to have a half of football where he puts his long passes into a decent area, and in the second half, he just doesn't, and it's awful. And, I mean, it happened for the second goal. I'm not even going to waste my time looking at it because it's pathetic. United shouldn't even be having to go long because they should have a ball-playing goalkeeper, but they don't. And it's a problem, and it's going to keep being a problem. It's what I've been saying for probably a couple of months now. These are problems which we are going to keep seeing. Because one, the first team alone doesn't have controlling players in the midfield, but when you take the likes of Eriksen off, who is the closest thing to a controller, then they just lose control completely. Plus you've got a goalkeeper just punting the ball to the opposition constantly. United just can't control football matches. And with also that weak mentality of when we concede, we start to crumble away from home. This United is just where United are at the moment, and it's getting to the point where I just kind of want the season to end. Give Ten Hag some new signings, let him kind of build his team, and see what happens next year. Because it's just the same old story again and again and again, and it's just really disappointing. But you know, a draw at the end of the day, and it's not a bad result. Spurs are a good side with the likes again of Harry Kane, Heung-min Son. There's some good players in there. It's not a bad result. Beat Aston Villa at the weekend, which easier said than done. But if United can get a win at the weekend, they look really good for top 4 still. I think United will get top 4. But it's just frustrating when you can see the problems with a team, but physically, because we're not in the transfer window, you can't really change it. Like I said so many times, you can't spawn in a ball-playing goalkeeper out of nowhere. You can't do it. You can't generate a striker which is going to get you 30, 40 goals a season as a main number 9. United just don't have that. They don't have the controlling midfielder. They don't have the depth to bring on from the bench. So it's just a little bit frustrating. But yeah, because it's what we've seen so many times recently, I'm not going to bother going any further. That's all I'm going to say. Let me know your thoughts though in the comments down below. Disappointing night. I'm tired. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.